Ladies, gents, non-binary friends, hi, hello, and welcome back. Reading the next part in the Beka Cooper series, Terrier. We are going to start Beka's actual adventure. So, buckle down, grab some snacks, grab a drink, grab something else to do while you listen. And thank you so much for being here. Part 1, The Journal of Rebecca Cooper. Wednesday, April 1st, 2:46. Written on the morning of my first day of duty. I have this journal that I mean to use as a record of my days in the Provost Guard. Should I survive my first year as a puppy, it will give me good practice for writing reports when I am a proper dog. By setting down as much as I can remember word by word, especially in talk with the folk about the city, I will keep my memory exercises sharp. Our trainers told us we must always try to memorize as much as we can exactly as we can. Your memory is your record when your hands are too busy. That is one of our training sayings. For my own details to make a proper start, I own to 5 feet and 8 inches in height. I have a good shoulders, though I am a bit on the slender side. My build is muscled for a mutt. I have worked cursed hard to make it so, in the training yard and on my own. My peaches are well enough. Doubtless they would be larger if I put on more pounds. But as I have no sweetheart and am not wishful of one, for now, my peaches are fine as they are. I am told I am pretty in my face, though my sister Diona says when my fine nose and cheekbones have been broken flat several times, that will no longer be so. My sisters do not want me to be a dog. My eyes are light blue-gray in color. Some like them, others hold them to be unsettling. I like them because they work. My teeth are good. My hair is a dark blonde. Folk can see my brows and lashes without my troubling to darken them. Not that I would. I wear my hair long as my one vanity. I know it offers an opponent a grip, but I have learned to tight braid it from the crown of my head. I also have a spiked strap to braid into it, so that any who sees my braid will regret it. I am so eager for 5 o'clock and my first watch to begin that my writing on this page is shaky, not neat as I have been taught. It is hard to think quietly. I must be sure to write every bit of this first week of my first year, above all. For 8 long years I have waited for this time to come. Now it has. I want a record of my first seekings. My training dogs, my every bit of work. I will be made a dog sooner than any puppy has ever been. I will prove I know more than any puppy my very first week. It is not vanity. I lived in a cesspool for 8 years. I stole. I studied with the Lord Provost for 8 more years. 3 years of that 8 I ran messages for the Provost dogs before I went into training. I know the lower city better than I know the faces of my own sisters and brothers, better than I knew my mother's face. I will learn the rest quicker than any other puppy. I even live in the lower city again, on Nip Copper Close. None of the others assigned to the Jane Street kennel do. They will regret it when they must walk all the way home at the end of their watch. Pounce says I count my fish before they're hooked. I tell Pounce that if I must be saddled with a purple-eyed talking cat, why must it be a sour one? He is to stay home this week. I will not be distracted by the strange creature who has been my friend these last 4 years, and I will not have my dogs distracted by him. They will ask all manner of questions about him. For one, questions I cannot answer, and he will not. My greatest fear is my shyness. It has grown so much worse since I began to put up my hair and let down my skirts. I was the best of all our training class in combat, yet earned a weekly switching because I could not declaim in rhetoric. Claim in rhetoric. I don't know what I just did there. Somehow I must find the courage to tell a stranger he is under arrest for crimes against the king's peace, and detail those crimes, or I must get a partner who likes to talk. I am assigned to the Jane Street Kennel. The watch commander in this year of 246 is Acton of Fenrir. I doubt I will ever have anything to do with him. Most dogs don't. Our watch sergeant is Kabibi Ahuda, my training master in combat and the fiercest mott I have ever met. We have 6 corporals on our watch and 25 senior guards. That's not counting the cage dogs and the dogs who handle the scent hounds. We also have a mage on duty, Bulk the nose picker, motts call him. I plan to have nothing to do with him either. The next time he puts a hand on me, I'll break it, mage or not. There's the sum of it. All that remains is my training dogs. I will write of them and describe them properly when I know who they are. Written at day's end. As the sun touched the rim of the city wall, I walked into the Jane Street kennel for our first day. We had no training before duty. I could enter in a fresh, clean uniform. I had gotten mine from the old clothes room at my Lord Provost's house. I wore the summer black tunic with short sleeves, black breeches, and black boots. I had a leather belt with purse, whistle, hair daggers, a proper baton, water flask, and rawhide cords for prisoner taking. I was kitted up like a proper dog and ready to bag me some rats. Some of the other lower city trainees were already there. Like me, they wore a puppy's white trim at the hem of their sleeves and tunic. None of us know if the white is to mark us out as so rats will spare us or so they will kill us first. None of our teachers will say either. I sat with the other puppies. They greeted me with gloom. None of them wanted to be here. But each district gets its allotment of the year's trainees. My companions felt they drew the short straw. There is cursed little glory here, unless you are a veteran dog or a friend of the rogue. The pickings are coppers at best, and the lower city is rough. Everyone knows that of the puppies who start their training year in the lower city. Half give up or are killed in the first 4 months. I tried to look as glum as the others to keep them company. They are cross that I wanted to come to Jane Street. Huda took her place at the tall sergeant's desk. We all sat up. We feared her in training. She is a stocky black woman with some freckles and hair. She has straightened and cut just below her ears. Her family is from Carthag, far in the south. They say she treats trainees the way she does in vengeance for how the Carthagis treated her family as slaves. All I know is that she made fast fighters of us. He nodded to the evening watchdogs as they came on duty. Already in pairs were meeting up in the waiting room. Some looked at our bench and grinned. Some nudged each other and laughed. My classmates hunkered down and looked miserable. "They'll eat us alive," my friend Erskine whispered in my ear. He was the kindest of us, not the best trait for a dog to be. I think they sharpened their teeth. "Going to sea wouldn't have been so bad," Rinny said, come in after me and sat on my other side. "Go on, Beka, give them one of them ice eye glares of yours. Go on, Beka, give them one of those ice eye glares of yours." Ooh, that's a tongue twister. I looked down, though I'm comfortable with my fellow puppies. I wasn't easy with the dogs or the folk who came in with business in the kennel. "You get seasick," I told Rinny. "That's why you went for a dog, and leave my glares out of it." Since Ahuda was at her desk, the watch commander was already in his office. He'd be going over the assignments, choosing the dog partners who would get a puppy, or just agreeing to Ahuda's choices. I asked the goddess to give Erskine someone who'd understand his kindness never meant he was weak. Rinny needed dogs that would talk to her straight. And me? God, Goddess Mithros, let them be good at their work, I begged. Who would I get? I know who I wanted. There were 3 sets of partners who were famous for their work. I kissed the half moon at the base of my thumbnail for luck. Outside, the market bells chimed the 5th hour of the afternoon. The end of the day watch and the beginning of the evening watch, dogs going off duty, lined up before Ahuda's desk. Their puppies at their backs to muster out. When Ahuda dismissed them, they were done for the day. Puppies, 6 of our classmates sighed with relief and headed out the door. Before they left, they told us what we were in for, each in their own fashion. Some gave us a thumbs up. A couple mimed a hanging with a weary grin. I just looked away. What was so hard for them? They'd had day watch. Everyone knew that evening watch got the worst of it in the lower city. With the day watch gone, Ahuda called out the names of a pair of dogs that had been lounging on one of the benches. When they looked at her, she jerked her thumb at the commander's door. They settled their shoulders, checked each other's uniforms, and went inside. I knew them. My Lord Gershom had commanded them twice. Once the door closed behind them, Ahuda looked at us. Puppy Erskine Westover. You're assigned to those 2 dogs for training. Step up here. Erskine gulped, then stood to whistles and applause from the veteran dogs. I straightened his clothes, Rinny kissed him, and our fellow trainee clapped him. on the back or shook his hand. Then Erskine tried to walk across the room like he was confident he could do the job, in front of about 20 ordinary folk and the dogs of the evening watch. Hilliard elbowed me. You could have given him a kiss, Beka, to brighten his last hours. I elbowed him some harder. Hilliard was always trying to cook up mischief. My kisses aren't good enough, Rooney demanded of him. He punched his shoulder. See what sweetening you get when they call you. Erskine came to attention before Ahuda's desk. He looked down her short nose at him. Stop that. Relax. The commander's given them the speech about how they're not to break you or dent you or toss you down the sewer without getting permission from me first. The dogs laughed. One of them called. Don't sweat it, lad. We're all just working dogs down here. They keep the honor and glory for pretty girls for Unicorn District. That dog was a woman whose face was marked crossways by a scar. One of them said, Up there the fountains run rosewater. Here they run piss, cried the dogs. It was an old joke in the lower city. The commander's door opened. Out came the two dogs. They looked resigned. The heavy-set one beckoned to Erskine. Heel, puppy. Let's get our glorious partnership rolling. You don't say nothing, see? We talk, you listen. He clamped a thick hand on Erskine's shoulder and steered him to the door. Ahuda called, Remember, tomorrow you puppies report an hour early for combat training before your watch. No more easy starts like today. Erskine's dogs let the door close. Ahuda then called for a new dog pair to see the commander and for the next of us to wait for his training dogs. It was Hilliard's turn. Just as she'd threatened, Barini gave him no kiss. While we waited for the dogs to collect Hilliard, a city woman called, Sarge, be there word of who left old Cruikshank's great-grandbaby dead in the gutter? We looked at her. She was here to visit a man in the rat cages out back, mayhap. She had 5 little ones with her. She must have feared there was some killer out there and refused to leave them at home. Ahuda shook her head. There is no news, mistress. If you're scared for your own, I'd counsel you to let go of your fear. Cruikshank is the evilest pitchpenny scale landlord in the lower city. He buys the croppers what's valued in gold. If one of his first fire traps burns with the mother in it, he sells the orphans for slaves. He's got more than enough enemies. Any of them could have strangled that poor little one. Aye, but no one kills women and children, muttered a dog. There's no part of their business. They're no part of business. Huda glared at him. We'll catch the rat and flame Levin. But I'll bet anyone here Cruikshank drove some poor Luby to Cracknob Row. Your little ones are safe, mistress. It's true. Cruikshank is the most hated man in Chorus. It's true also that family is off limits if they aren't in your enemy's line of work. Till a rival's childkin is to become outlaw. Our wage with the old scale got the best to seek the lad's killer, a cove said. Come on, Sergeant, who'd Cruikshank buy special to get put on the murder? I heard he got teams on each watch seeking. He did. Not that it's your business, Ahuda said, not looking up from her writing. Who is it on this watch? Someone else called. Ahuda looked up with a scowl, ready to tell these folk to hold their tongues. It was old Nyler Jewel, who said, Why, me and Yobes, good city folk. They all stared. Doubtless they knew that Yob's sister hung herself but 3 months back. Her husband had sold her to pay a debt to Cruikshank. Then she had killed herself in the slave pens. Jewel and Yob would never sweat to seek Rolandloff's killer, no matter how much his great-granddad paid in bribes. The dogs picked from the night and day watches were also dogs with a grudge. Cruikshank had so many enemies he didn't even know them all. While Ahuda read out the names for the 4th pair to see the commander, Matthias Tunstall and Clara Goodwin came in. I put my head down so my bangs hid my eyes and watched as they found themselves a patch of wall to lean on. Of the 3 good pairs here on Jane Street, they were the best. Goodwin a corporal, Tunstall a senior dog. They could have had any posting in Chorus, but they kept to the lower city. One night, my lord had invited them to supper for a task they'd done very well. I hid in the drapes of the little supper room at Provost's house to hear the legends talk. Lord Gershom offered them a place in Highfields, but they refused. Tunstall said, Clary and me, we know the lower city. The worst ones know our little ways. The people of the Court of the Rogue have memorized our bootprints. Bless their silly cracked heads. It suits us, don't it, Clary? And Goodwin, she chuckled. The pickings are richer elsewhere, my Lord Gershom was amused. I could hear it. The happy begs of bribes to the kennels are fatter in other districts. We're humble folk, Goodwin said. She had a voice like dark honey. We like humble pickings. And the bones that come from the rogue's happy bags are rich enough. I'd never be assigned to them, I knew. They didn't get puppies. Goodwin and Tunstall gossiped with other friends among the dogs as other pairs came out with a puppy. The lower city veterans are a hard crew, wearing metal throat protectors and metal-ribbed arm guards as well as the regular uniform. Even other dogs are wary of these folk, respectful of their ability to stay alive. I would be the last one called. I looked around as my last year mate left with his dogs. I wiped my sweaty hands on my breeches, then I nearly swallowed my own tongue because a Huda called, Tunstall and Goodwin. No. Goodwin looked at me, her brown eyes sharp. No. We don't get puppies. We don't like puppies. No offense, whoever you are. We never had a puppy. You're past due then. Huda had no sympathy in her eyes. Your luck just ran out. Goodwin headed into the commander's office like a hawk that had sighted prey. Tunstall ambled after. They were a mismatched pair. Corporal Goodwin is 2 inches shorter than me. She is built strong, wears her dark brown hair cut short, and has a small beak of a nose, full lips. They said she'd put down a Scanner berserker when he'd killed 3 men in a fight, her alone with her baton. She is fast and all muscle. She's been a dog 17 years. Senior dog Tunstall has partnered with her for 13. He's been a dog for 20 in all. He is about 6'3", long-armed, long-legged, with deep-set brown eyes and a long, curved nose. I think he looks like an owl, though he's popular enough with moths. He wears his hair cropped short all over his head. There is a gray in his short beard and mustache. He is funny and easygoing. He could be a watch commander, even a captain, and so could she. Neither of them want it. Kennel rumor says he is some kind of hillman. Mayhap even a renegade from one of the eastern tribes. Whatever he'd been before coming to the Provost Guard, he is one of us now. Beka Cooper. From the laughter in the room, it wasn't the first time Ahuda had called my name. I went to stand before the desk. She looked down at me. Don't let them rattle you, she advised. You've got the best. That's the only extra chance I wrangled for you. And if you're smart, you won't depend on your other connections high up to grease your way. I looked down, as if I'd ask for help from my lord. Better not be cooing our tales in his ear neither. I didn't know the voice, and I didn't turn to look. You never did when she was a runner. I know. She saw plenty. She had 3 years' worth of chances. That was a voice I knew. Neither Jewel. Never you worry about little Beka. I just watched the floor. I hate being talked about all the same. Turning to talk back like Hilliard or Verini would do made my tripes ring out. Besides, I could hear shouting behind the commander's closed door. Since the commander is man, I knew it was Goodwin who wasn't happy. She walked out of the commander's office, slamming the door. I added another prayer to my string of them. I wanted to survive my dog partners. She came up to me and looked me over. I have 2 rules for you, puppy. I looked down. I always do. I can't help it. Meeting people is the hardest for me. It never gets any easier. She grabbed my chin with her hand and forced me to meet her eyes. Look me in the face when I'm talking to you, Puppy Cooper. 2 rules. Speak when you're spoken to and keep out of my way. She let go of my chin and glared up at Tunstall, who had joined us. All right, time to start the babysitting detail. He smiled, looking even more like a tall, gangly owl. Come on, Puppy Cooper. His voice was deep with a little bit of an accent. Candy Wood. Sorry. I followed them outside. I wasn't going to tell Goodwin that I knew well the rules to follow with our training dogs. Speak when you're spoken to. Keep out of the way. Obey all orders. Get killed on your own time. Practice tomorrow at 4, Huda called after me. Every day you have street duty, Cooper. Between the kennel door and the Jane Street gate is the courtyard where message runners and people with kennel business wait. The crowd was bigger than usual. They knew puppies were being assigned and wanted to see who got what. The noise they made when they saw Tunstall and Goodwin as a trainee was deafening. Whistles, laughter, plenty of comments about what Tungsto might do with me. I tried not to listen. I didn't think anybody could bend in those directions, not that I know. Most of the other girl puppies had been with a lad or two, and some moths, like my old friend Tansy, are already married by 16. I tried it once. It seemed well enough, but my mama's life was reason enough not to let myself get hobbled by a lad. And there was my dream. Since Lord Gershom brought my family into his house, I've only wanted to be a dog. Falling in love would just ruin things. Passing through the gate, I saw movement in the shadows. One cat-shaped shadow came over to walk with me. "Pounce!" I muttered. "Scat! Go away!" Toxin burr, and he never listened. I told him I didn't want him about this week. The cursed animal always finds me. I'd locked him in, folly though it was. I had shuttered the windows and barred them and locked my door. I'd made sure he was inside. I'd heard his yowling as I ran down the stairs. Eventually he always gets out, but I'd hoped he'd take the hint and leave me be. I'm on duty. I'd best not be hearing noises from you, puppy, Goodwin called over her shoulder. I shut up and flapped my hands at Pounce. He ignored me. Dreaded creature that he is. Stupid cats stay home when they're locked in. I wouldn't have this problem if he were normal. "Uncle, why is there a cat following us?" Goodwin asked. "I don't want to be falling over some stray black cat." "It's not a stray, Goodwin. He wears a collar." Uncle bent down and scooped up Pounce. I glared at my cat, silently daring him to scratch or bite. Instead, my contrary animal turned his whiskers forward in a cat smile and let Tunxel scratch him under his chin. Pounce didn't even struggle when Tunxel halted in the patch of fading sunlight to inspect him. Then he saw Pounce's eyes. "Mithros, Goodwin, look." Goodwin looked. She swore. It's about half and half who swear and who talks religion. When they see Pounce's face, I can't blame them. I nearly fell out of the stable loft when I'd found a kitten with purple eyes. "Are you a god?" Tunxel asked Pounce. "Meh," my idiot cat said. He added a few sounds like mert as if to prove his catness. For once they even sounded like cat to me. So many of his cat noises seemed like speech. "If he is a god, he chooses not to say," Goodwin said. "He wears Cooper's collar." Tunxel looked at me. "Do you have a magical kitty cat, Puppy Cooper?" he asked me, raising an eyebrow. "You may answer." The words stuck in my throat. I shook my head, wishing I could fall through the slops and garbage of Jane Street. "It's just Pounce," I wanted to say. "He's odd, but you get used to his ways." But of course I couldn't say a word. Cat?" Goodwin looked at Pounce's collar, and with those eyes, "He's not magic?" My soon-to-be sold-for-dumpling meat cat reached out and patted Goodwin's nose. "Stop that, you." But she smiled when she said it. And she scratched him behind the ears. Pounce rubbed his head against her hand like she was the one who spent precious coppers on meat that she chopped for him herself. "You brought your cat. Speak up, trainee." I tried. I did, and I remembered her warning to look her in the eye. So I managed that, but the speech just wouldn't come out of my throat. Goodwin lifted Pounce from Tunxel's hold. Did you bring him to the kennel?" That was easy. I shook my head and got out. No, guardswoman. I didn't think I could call her dog without permission or even Goodwin. "We followed you here." Goodwin's fingers were brisk but affectionate behind Pounce's ears. The little traitor wrapped his forelegs around her neck. Yes, guardswoman." I would have given anything not to have met her clear brown eyes. "Clever cat," said Tunxel. Goodwin put him down. "You scat. She has work to do. Hard work, staying out of my hair." He glared at Pounce. "Wait till I get home. You home, you ungrateful furball." He pointed in the direction of our lodgings. He trotted across the street. I couldn't watch him further because Tunxel and Goodwin were on their way. People greeted them from doorways and stalls, wanting to know who the puppy was. I hung my head as they laughed and shouted their offers to buy me or play with me. And for the 100th time I cursed my shyness that made it so hard to talk to my dog partners, even when I was bidden to, or to answer the street folk back the way Tunxel did. "But she's our puppy, Inknose. If we let her fetch you, she'd just hurt you." "Leave the lass alone, Wildberry, you saucy wench. She'll never be as beautiful as you and your sisters." "Shut up, Pastoy. You ain't paid the dog for the last batch of puppies you sold in Siraj." In between his remarks to them, Tunxel explained things to me. "Since we're a senior pair, Cooper, we have no fixed route. 3 nights a week, starting tonight, we roam the night market in the lower city. between Roper Street and Koskey. Northgate and Stormwings, that's Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. We go where there's likely to be trouble. Thursday and Saturday, we're in the cesspool, Stormwing Street to Mulberry and Cherry Orchard. We do our own seeking, unless assigned one by a Huda. We get papers when we need help on a seeking, and we have our flocks of birdies who give us what we need in order to seek. And if we have aught that's good, we wander off our wanderings. Clary, aught to add? She looked at him. I'm bored. Tunxil scratched the back of her head. And you say I'm a barbarian. At least I know how to train a new warrior. Halt right there, Cooper. Look about you. What do you see? It was too easy. Not 10 feet away, a pickpocket moved in on a pickle woman. I put my hand on my baton, but Tunxil slid over like ink in water. He laid his baton gentle-like on the boy's hand. Just as the lad touched the mott's purse, Tunxil shook his head. Pickle woman started to shriek at the thief. Tunxil gave her a smile and a copper. How about one of your pickles, sweetheart? Like anyone in the lower city, she got distracted by business. When she started to fish for a pickle in the barrel, Tunxil raised his baton from the lad's hand. Pickpocket ran. Tunxil traded copper for pickle with a bow and took a big bite of his snack. Oh, get on you. No wonder they call you lads' dogs, thinking you can charm an old hag like me with a wag of your tail. The pickle seller bridled and blushed, then tucked her coin away and headed on down the street. There was a twitch to her hips. I'd wager she'd give her husband an extra warm night, thinking of the tall dog who had flirted with her. If her husband comes looking for you, I won't be your second. Not after the last time. Goodwin nudged him with her elbow. I stood there like an idiot while you made the cove laugh so hard at your jokes he ended up buying all of us breakfast. Some duel that was. Well, I didn't kill him, and he didn't want to kill me. Everyone was satisfied except maybe for the seconds. Tunxil looked at me and beckoned for me to come up level with him. Now, puppy, you saw him. That's good. You'd made a fuss. Maybe not so good. What grade pickpocket was he? Great myth was a training question. My brain scrambled, then I remembered and met Tunxil's eyes. He'd no knife. He was a true pickpocket. Slow as he is, he probably won't live to be a master pickpocket. Tunxil prodded me. And what's the street word for master pickpocket? Voice, sir, I replied. So she knows the words, Goodwin muttered. So what? Tunxil patted her shoulder, then turned to me. Well, we don't go around raising a fuss for minnows, puppy. I don't like standing before the magistrate any more than I must. It's less time spent out here looking for truly dangerous folk. That made sense. I nodded and saw that Pounce had returned to sit at my feet. I tried to nudge him away with my boot. Come on, Goodwin. Come on, said Goodwin. The evening's young, and I was thinking we might pay Crookshank a visit. I'd like a word with him about the load of pink pearls that went missing off of Gemstone Mews. If he's half as cracked by grief as they say, mayhap he'll get careless in his talk. I did look up then. She was grinning with all her teeth on show. They were strong and white like the wolves in the royal menagerie. Now, Clary, that's not nice, Tunxil told her. He's in deep mourning for little Roland. Quick as a snake, he looked back at me. Puppy, who's Crookshank? He startled me so that I answered without thinking. Biggest of the night market scales, owns a piece of most of what's lifted, half of the luxury goods, minimum. A quarter of the loaner trade. He's got about 20 buildings in the cesspool, 20 more in the greater lower city. I swallowed and remembered where I was, who I spoke to. Sir. What did you expect, Mats? Demanded Goodwin. She's lived in my Lord Gersham's pocket for 8 years. She had to pick up something, but she wasn't completely stupid. Knowing isn't the same as doing. She walked out into the crossing of Gibbet Corner and Feasting Street. Her stalls filled the huge square before us. We had come to the night market. I nearly fell over my like-new boots with surprise. She knew who I was. I was for certain it wasn't covered in what the commander said when I was assigned to them. She'd known of me before. Does she know I'm friends with Crookshank's granddaughter-in-law, Tansy, and my mama with her granddaughter-in-law, Annis? With his daughter-in-law, Annis? I wondered sudden-like. How? No one from the Rose Cesswood district was ever allowed at the house, so I should tell the dogs. Trying to catch up with them, I changed my mind. It wasn't useful. Tansy wouldn't come out to say hello to visitors, if dogs could rightly be called visitors. She hadn't left the house since Roland was found dead. Janice came to see us. She'd never give me away. She was a hard one, as fit a woman who made herself her father-in-law's right hand. I could tell Goodwin and Tunstall I had friends in the household later when we were off the street. The night market was stirring up for business. The torches were just lit, sun beating behind the walls in the lower city. Plenty of folk were still at their daily work. This was quiet time. Buyers and sellers were talking among the stalls, collecting gossip, beginning to cook, adjusting weapons. It's my favorite time in the night market. We walked along. Stall vendors and market regulars called greetings to Goodwin and Tunstall. 2 other pairs of dogs worked the night market, but we didn't see them. I was trying to wave Pounce off again when Tunstall halted. I could see that big beak of his twitching. I smell apple raisin patties, he announced. Goodwin turned to him and rolled her eyes. Glutton, she said, her smile mocking Hook at one corner. Tunstall led us down the bakers and spicers row of the market until he stopped at the stall that spread those good smells. I don't know anyone who won't swear by all the gossip Mrs. Deidre Knoll is the best baker in all Chorus. And Tunstall's luck was in because Mistress Knoll herself was minding the trays of baked goods. Mats, I should have known that you would sniff out my patties, he said with a laugh. He even reached up and tweaked his nose. Give me your handkerchief, you great lummox. Mistress Clary, how do you fare this good evening? As ever, Mistress Deidre, Goodwin said. None of your daughters could take the stall tonight? Not tonight. Mistress Knoll placed 6 fat patties heavy with cinnamon on Tunstall's handkerchief. She looked as she always had to me, plump, her gray hair braided, pinned, and coiled at the back of her head, brown eyes and a small nose and straight mouth. She wore a brown cloth gown under her white cook's apron. Seeing her like a dog must, I guessed her age to be about 50 now. She tied Tunstall's handkerchief to make a bundle of patties and handed them over. He reached for his purse. She put fists on her hips and drew herself up as tall as she could go, which was no more than my shoulder. As if any dog in the lower city paid me for something to get him through to his supper, he said, all huffy. I'd smack your face if I could, Matt Tunstall. He looked at Goodwin. Men, no notion of what's a gift. He flicked out a slip of cloth that had been washed so often it was almost sheer, and settled 3 patties on it. That's for you, Clary, since I know you're nicer about your handkerchiefs than he is. The big barbarian. Tunstall mumbled something through hot filling and crumbs. Goodwin leaned in and kissed Mistress Knoll's cheek. Thank you, Goodwin said, her deep voice amused. Don't mind him. He wasn't housebroke when I bought him. Mistress Knoll looked down. Pounce, you little beggar. What are you doing here? Don't tell me you've run away from Beka. The 2 of you are melted together. My friend cried. Look in front of you. Look in front of you in cat talk. It amazes me that he can decide who will understand him and who will not. He's done so since he bade me to find him 4 years ago when he was a noisy kitten. This time I was the only one who understood. Mistress Knoll only chuckled and offered him some fish paste she'd been using for dumplings she fried at the breezer in the stall. When she straightened, she saw me. Goddess bless me, it is Beka, all grown up and partnered with you 2. She looked at Goodwin and Tunstall. She's a trainee, not a partner, Goodwin smiled. Barely. How do you get to know her, Mistress Deidre? Out came another worn bit of clean cloth. Mistress Knoll popped 3 apple fritters into it. She knew well they were my favorites. Hey, said Tunstall, hers are bigger. I grinned at him. Then I ducked my head. Well, you'd best take care of her. I've known her all my life, and you couldn't ask her a better-hearted Gixie, said Mistress Knoll. I told her she ought to have let me make dumplings of you years ago, she told Pounce, scratching his ears. Pounce mewed sad enough to pull her heartstrings. He might have been thanking her for the scratch with his last starving breath. I glared at him, telling him with my eyes, You're disgusting. Tell me you didn't have a beef supper before I left. He licked his chops as Mistress Knoll gave him an even bigger ball of fish paste. Goodwin asked, Mistress Deidre, did you hear about old Crookshank's grandson? Mistress Knoll looked at Goodwin sidelong. He knew she was being played for information. Tunstall gave her a big shrug as if to say, She's my partner, what can I do? Mistress Knoll busied herself with pressing dough on a small table by the cookpot. As if anyone didn't know. Poor little mite. It's a disgrace, it is. taking a quarrel with the old man into to his family. Barbaric. Mayhap they carry on so in Scanra or Barzoon, but not here. Whoever did it won't last long, breaking the rogue's law like that. Tunstall grimaced. Goodwin sniffed. The rogue is old and should make way for someone young and strong who could keep order among the city's thieves. Instead, he's fixed the court of the rogue to keep himself alive. He doesn't look out for the people of the lower city anymore, only his chiefs and the folk who add his treasure chests. Pigeons started landing on the stall's canopy. "Scat, you nasty things!" cried Mistress Snow, grabbing a broom and jabbing at the canvas. "Don't you go leaving your mess on my goods. Beka, stand somewhere else." "Mistress Dredry, she is our trainee." "Mistress Dredry, she's our trainee. She must stand with us," Tunstall reminded her. "And what's she got to do with the pigeons?" I swallowed and thanked the goddess I hadn't done just as Mistress Noel had did me. I'd have been in trouble if I'd moved at someone else's orders. Above us, I heard the whispers of voices as the birds whirled and spun over the thumping canopy. Bits of human talk were coming through the pigeons as always. "Rest at! Spend it! Mama!" Pounce's loud and imperious meow cut through the noise. As if he'd given them an order, the pigeons flew over to Money Changer's hall and settled on the carvings that decorated the front of the place. "Beka always has some tailing her," Mistress Noel told my partners. "A bit of strange magic, I wouldn't doubt. It's in her father's family." She smiled at me. "Maybe one of the birds got reborn into your cat, girl." You'd think they'd be roosting this hour of the night." Goodwin brushed her sleeves as if she thought to find droppings on her. There's so much light here they carry on like it's day," Tunstall said. He plunked down a copper noble. "One of your beef pies, Mistress Dredry, as a grieving gift." He leaned closer and said quietly, "Any little whispers about anyone who might have been around the Crookshank child, who shouldn't have been?" Mistress Noel carefully settled the pie into a cheap basket. "That's Tunstall. You know very well anything useful doesn't come to someone like me. No one shares anything with old folk. We're finished. We just haven't died." "But you're not finished," Tunstall told her with a flirty smile. "You sharp old folk are everywhere, aren't you? You're everywhere and you see and hear everything." "And if you did hear something," Goodwin hinted, "it'd be a wondrous thing. Still, I'd pass it on to the two of you, respectful as you are. Would that others were like you." Mistress Noel gave Tunstall his change in the basket. "Fare you well. If you return the basket, you'll get 5 coppers for it." "No problem," Tunstall said with a grin. "I'll just have my puppy fetch it back to you." Crookshank's house was near the rear of the night market, the biggest house on Stevick Street. Pounce wandered off into the night market whilst the manservant let us in. They waited in the sitting room as he fetched Annis Lofts. I wondered yet again if I ought to tell my dogs that my mamma had been friends with Mistress Annis. She came before I could fish the words from where they were stuck in my chest. He wore black for Roland, a long black tunic over a black underdress. She'd been crying. "You can see Father Ammon for the good it will do you," she said. It took me a moment to know who Mistress Annis meant by Father Ammon. He's been Crookshank for so long. I'd forgotten the old Scale's real name was Ammon Lofts. "He's done little but sit in the dark. He hates you two enough. Mayhap he'll move for you. This way." Goodwin looked at me. "Puppy, sit," he ordered as she and Tunstall followed Annis. Instead, I walked around the room, pricing the little pretty things and hangings. Crookshank had probably bought furniture and all with one day's taking of stolen goods, and he'd paid them that stole it only a part of its worth. That was what Scales did. In a moment, Mistress Annis returned. "Well, you didn't throw them out." She tried a smile on me, but it didn't work that well. She offered me no embrace for all her sorrowing. "Look at you, all kitted out like a dog. Will you start tattling on old friends then?" "All dogs walk that line," I told her. "So you do," her face shook. "Oh, Beka, I wish your mother was still with us. I miss her so much." "I miss her too. Only 2 years Mama has been gone. Still hurts. I know she would comfort you if she could." She wiped her eyes. "You'd think I'd be done with the tears by now, but Roland was only 3. Who would kill a baby only 3? Who went up Everyone, just as friendly as you could ask for, she blew her nose. But you see, Tansy, it will do her good. I wanted to see her. It's hard nowadays. Crookshank don't like his granddaughter-in-law mingling with old friends from the cesspool. Old friends from the cesspool who live in Provost's house are even worse. With the child and husband, Tansy finds it even harder to get away. I was ordered to stay here, I said, trying not to whine. Candace gave me the oddest smile. You think they'll complain to know you're friends with Tansy? Dogs are always looking for a back door to a house. Up until now, they've never had one here. They'll be delighted. I didn't know about delighted, but I used my wits for a moment. Annis was right. They would be glad I had friends in Crookshank's very own family. I hope they won't be vexed if I don't go bearing tales. From the little I've heard from Tansy, Crookshank is a cruel father-in-law and grandfather. I won't bring his anger down on Tansy and Annis by taking tales to my dogs, if I can help it. I nodded. I'll tell your dogs where you are, if they're done with father in any hurry, Annis said. He was growling and snapping when I brought them to him, so they'll want to see what they can wheedle out of the old coin cutter. Come, see if you can get Tansy to eat something. She led me through the house, past servants who nodded at her and gawped at me. I wish I could say it was the uniform that drew respect, but I glimpsed smirks and pointed fingers as they remarked on my puppy trim. Only my first day of wearing it, and I can't wait to get that part of the uniform off. She's got another babe coming, Annis told me as we climbed the narrow servant stair. She can't starve herself like this. 2 stories up, we came out of the stair and walked down a hall. Annis showed me into a fine bedchamber. There Tansy lay on a large bed, staring at the ceiling. I could see the swell of her belly. She has mayhap 4 months to go yet. Her room wasn't a good place to think of such things, with a bed draped in black muslin. The small mirror was draped in black, too. Tansy wore a black gown and a rumpled headcloth. Annis whispered to her, begging her to sit up and greet me. Go away, Tansy cried, flinging herself across the big bed. I don't want to live. There was a water pitcher nearby. I picked it up and said, Excuse me, Mistress Annis. I judged my throat carefully and tossed the water all over Tansy. She shrieked and came off the bed like a scalded cat. She hurled her sopping headcloth at me. I dodged it. Then she came at me, ready to claw my eyes out. I grabbed her wrist just like they'd taught us. Shame on you, wailing like a crack knob, not thinking about your poor mama-in-law or that babe you got coming, I told her. Shame. You hold Roland's ghost here. Let him go on to the Black God's realm peaceful like. I knew it was a lie. It was being murdered that kept the baby's ghost about. But Tansy will fret herself to death if you don't speak stern to her. She crumpled up and began to cry. I sat her on the bed and took the drying cloth Annis gave me. Are you going to eat something now, like a sensible girl? Annis asked her, or do I refill the water jug? Tansy nodded. Soup, please. Her voice was hoarse. Mayhap some rolls and milk. She smoothed her hand over her belly. When Annis went to get those things, Tansy looked at me. She gave me a quivery smile, though she was still crying. You never had patience with me, even when you was 5 and me 8. You were still lecturing like a granny. Especially when you were making an ass of yourself, I reminded her. If you're going to mourn, do it proper, in a temple. Give Roland toys for an offering or his favorite sweets. But this does not you nor him no good at all. Tears rolled down her face. Who would kill Roland, Beka? A little boy who laughed whenever he saw a new face, like as not. That's how whoever doused Roland caught him, I thought. The dogs will find out, Tansy. They'll catch whoever done it and make them pay. Except that I knew better. Jewel and Yove had the hunt on evening watch. They didn't see the sweet little lad I had known. Roland had never grinned for them to show off his new teeth or played pat-a-cake. When they thought of Roland, they thought only that someone had made Crookshank suffer by killing him. I am near positive the dogs that have this hunt on the day and night watches feel the same. It's the way things are always done. That doesn't make it right. Roland was innocent of Crookshank's wickedness. He deserves a dog seeking justice for his murder, even if the dog is only a puppy. At least I know him as himself. Tansy wiped her eyes on her sleeve. God bless you. You're dressed up like a dog, a puppy. You'll get yourself killed, Beka, knifed in an alley somewhere, strangled, dumped in the river. I glared at her. And you weeping in a chamber is better than me doing honest work? Tansy held her head up. Leastways, I'm not poor and scraping burnt porridge from a pot to feed. Her mouth trembled. I wanted out of Mutpiddle Lane, Beka. Huron wanted to take me out of there. I've a good man and a fine house. I couldn't argue. It's thanks to my Lord Gershom that I am out. My mama had a decent bed to die in, and that my sisters and brothers are learning proper trades. Since talking was discomforting, I did what the training master said and looked Tansy's room over. The Lofts family lived well. The clothes presses were fine cedar, ornamented with mother of pearl and polished brass. The table supported pots for perfumes and lotions. Tansy had shell combs and brushes, ribbons in a carved wooden bowl, and a figure of the goddess as mother to bless her room. Shelves on the walls held pretty things with no real use to them. I wandered over to look at a row of stone figures. Among them was a piece of uncarved rock. In the candlelight, it sparked bits of colored fire from a light pink bed. Roughed my fingers like sandstone. I turned it over every which way, fascinated. The fires came from smooth pieces in the stone, strips, dots, and even one tiny shelf that shimmered pale red, blue, and green in a creamy setting. The stone was really no bigger than the first joint of my thumb, including the nail. It invited me to stare at each piece of it. "What's this?" I asked, turning to show it to her. "Goddess, take it! I don't ever want to see that cursed thing again," Tansy cried. "Karen brought it to me. Gave it to me like a jewel. Said it's going to see us all move to Unicorn District. The next day they stole my Roland. It's ill luck is what it is." "I don't see any magic signs." I held the stone to my nose and sniffed. "I don't smell oils or such like." "I don't care," Tansy said, weeping again. "You know what they say. If some canoe comes in your life and bad luck follows, then it followed the new thing. If bad luck follows you, Beka, my advice, throw the rock into the Oleron and with a curse whoever sent it." I put the stone in my pocket. "Tansy, can you think of anyone fool enough to try this way to attack Crookshank or why?" Her eyes flashed. "Go away, Beka, you talk like a dog. Just take that bad luck rock with you." I hesitated, but I knew I'd made a mistake. I went to put my arms around her. When she drew away, I gave her a glare of my own. "It's not the dog as wants to hug you, pox rot it." She hesitated, then let me hug her. "God's bless. The Black God will keep Roland's spirit safe till you come to him again," I whispered. "I hope so anyway. He was murdered. The Black God may not have him yet." The door opened. Annis came in with a maid who held a tray of food. "The dogs are asking for you." "The dogs are asking for you, Beka," Annis told me. "I told them I'd hoped you'd do Tansy good, and I was right. Get along with you." She hugged me too and kissed my cheek. "Do you burn the incense for Eloni's ghost?" I nodded. Annis pressed a copper into my hand. "Buy that lily of the valley scent she loved, and tell her I miss her." "I'll do that, Mistress Annis. Goddess bless you and yours." I ran off, remembering the way downstairs. I didn't want Goodwin and Tunstall waiting for me a moment longer than needful, particularly not if they were vexed that I'd left my post. Goodwin scowled when I came up. Tunstall was munching a pastry. He swung the empty pie basket on his finger. Trot this back to Mistress Snow, puppy, then meet us right here," he said as we walked outside. He flipped the basket into the air. I caught it and did as I was bid, shouldering my way through the small crowd of customers. I looked around for Pounce, but he was nowhere in view. "You were longer than I expected," Mistress Snow said. She passed me the coppers she would have kept if Tunstall hadn't returned the basket. "Don't tell me they actually talked to the old bootlicker." I shrugged and smiled and returned to my dogs. It's one of the big rules. Dog business stays with the dogs. Of course she wanted to know if Crookshank had said anything. I wanted to know if he'd said aught of interest. Not that I dared ask. My dogs waited still before Crookshank's house, though the night market was filling up and those that passed greeted them. I noticed that folk took care to give the two dogs some room. Goodwin stood with her feet apart, balanced, hands hooked in her belt, her dark eyes not missing a face. Tunstall juggled his dagger, flipping it from hand to hand, always catching it by the hilt, so it spun end over end in the air. "Puppy," Goodwin said, pointing to a spot right in front of her. "Mistress Lofts informed us she was a friend to your mother, and you are a friend to the young Mistress Lofts, the mother of the dead child. How is it you neglected to mention it to Mats or me? Look at me when I'm talking to you, Puppy Cooper." "You didn't ask, Guardswoman Goodwin," I said real fast. She's got a point, Clary." Tunstall gave his dagger a last flip and tucked it into his sheath with the same move he'd taken to catch it. "When you have a connection someplace where we're poking our nose, Cooper, speak up. We're good, but we're no mind readers." "Did Tansy say anything?" Goodwin asked. "No, don't tell us here. Save it till we're secure. You better not have depth, Puppy Cooper. People with depth are usually more trouble than they're worth." "She says so because she's deep," Tunstall explained to me as Goodwin walked on. I heard that, she called over one shoulder. I fell in behind them, turning the rough stone over in my hand. I wanted to keep it to myself, seek on my own, to see if it was important or not. Aaron Loth thought it was valuable, and he'd been raised at Crookshank's Loth's elbow. Still, the training masters were strict about that kind of thinking. No going behind a partner's back. Definitely no going behind your training partner's back. But how could a sparkly little piece of stone change Crookshank's fortunes and so Huron's? I knew rubies, emeralds, and sapphires didn't look too promising when they were dug from the ground, but at least they were a single solid rock. The clocks were chiming the 8th hour when we heard an uproar. We followed shouts into the night market. A crowd was by the square's fountain. From the way folk yelled and traded coin, there was a fight at the heart of the crowd. Tunstall rose on his toes to get a look. The Parks brothers. Some poor scut must have looked at them wrong for taking it out of his hide. Goodwin poked one cheering man with a baton. What are the odds? 2-3 against the new fish, he told her without looking away from the fight. He's supposed to be a wrestling champion in his sheep scummer village. He says his brothers are bull throwers, myth throwers. If those two are the brothers, I'm offering 5-3 against the Parks lads. I heard wood splinter. Someone screeched for the guard. Goodwin sighed. I was about to make some money. Tunstall, puppy, come on. Puppy, just stand by with your baton out and watch. If someone tries to bring me or Tunstall, then you can move. Otherwise, keep out of our way. I got my baton and followed as they pushed through the crowd. They used their batons when their voices didn't make folk move fast enough. We shoved into the fighting ring. The breaking wood must have been the nearest ale cellar stall. The poles are supported its canvas sides had been broken. Its roof hung down. Leather jacks and wooden cups were scattered over the cobbles and puddles, at least until the quick fingers who haunted the night market ducked in to steal them. What held the crowd's attention was 5 brawling coves at the center of the mess. I knew the 2 Parks brothers. The other 3 were country lads who were country big and country built. One of them proved it when he picked up the older Parks brother and lifted him over his head. He aimed for the 5-level fountain dedicated to the memory of King Jonathan I. Goodwin stepped in. Gently for a dog, she thumped the country fellow against the belly with her baton. The air went out of him. He dropped his man. Another country cove with eyes as blue as the sky and a face as open as a field stepped in to save the first one from the small woman. He didn't know Tunstall had come up between him and the remaining cove. My male partner didn't even take out his baton. Tunstall just grabbed the second cove's head and the third countryman's and banged them together like eggs. Then he let them sit down. The Parks who'd been fighting with that third countryman was too stupid to be glad his battle was over. He roared and charged Tunstall, head down. Tunstall turned to the side and swung up his bent knee. He caught the charging Parks brother on the chin. The cove decided to lay down. I looked at the Parks brother who'd been dropped. Plainly, he'd struck his head hard. He lay unmoving. Goodwin bent down to check his heartbeat. Then she peeled back his eyelids. Well, if he's got a brain, it's still working. Hey! Someone yelled behind me. Boys, city folk done attacked the Weatherskill lads. To me! I turned. 3 more countrymen were running straight at me. The one in the lead, who did the squalling, had a chopping knife out. It was fully 2 feet of blade on a hilt. Evidently, no other dogs had seen it and made him stow it before he walked the street. I did as Ahuda had taught. This cove watched Tunstall and Goodwin. He never saw me smack his wrist with my baton. Then when he dropped his weapon, he bent to grab it. I hit him on the spine, praying I hadn't done it too hard. I didn't want to cripple him, just stop him. One of his friends grabbed my arm. I got hold of his little finger with my free hand and bent it back hard. I'd had it done to me. I know that's too much pain to bear for long. Sure enough, he let go with a yell. Then Goodwin and Tunstall were there, taking care of the 2 louts still standing. When they were all down, Tunstall got his whistle. He blew 3 short blasts and 2 long, the signal for the cage dogs on duty outside the night market. Take all these scuts, Goodwin said when they came. Let them argue about what happened while they enjoy the cages. He looked at Tunstall and me. I don't know about you, but I worked up an appetite. Someone yelled, I had bets on that fight. Nobody won, you cracknob. Someone else called, you don't win and you don't lose. Get your coin back or maul them that stole it. You with the bets, Tunstall bellowed. Tunstall's bellow could shake the palace. Pay back every copper you hold. If I hear that anyone cheated a bettor, That cheater sees me on his doorstep or hers on the morrow. He means it too, someone whispered. Give the monkey back, you booby. That tongue's still talking. As we passed through the crowd, I heard folk murmur, Nice work, puppy. Neat job. Cool head, this one. Iloni Cooper's oldest girl. You know the one. Mother would have been proud. Goodwin moved back to walk next to me. You think you're their golden girl now, Cooper? She asked, speaking from my ears alone. Wait till you have to take in someone they love, someone popular. One of the ones with the easy smile and the charming way about them. You'll learn fast enough whose side they're on. Now, I thought I told you to stand fast and do nothing. I opened my mouth. She raised a finger. You did right. That harvesting knife would have been a real problem when you were closest. Just don't make a habit of it. Understand me? Yes, Guardswoman Goodwin. I met her eyes for a moment before I looked away, cursing my shyness. She and Tunstall led me down Pottage Lane to a small eating house called the Mantle and Pullet. Everyone there knows my dogs. They even have their own table. Tunstall gave me a copper noble and jerked his head toward the bar. Ale for us two, and whatever you're drinking, he said. We'll order you baked rat special. I had his measure enough to dare a small smile before I hurried to the barkeep. He'd already drawn ale for Goodwin and Tunstall and leather jacks, with their names printed on the side. What of you, pretty puppy? He said, leering at me. Nice strong ale to loosen your belt. Wine for your first day. I didn't have to look at him. Barley water, sir, if you please. You're joking. His voice was flat as he said it. No, Master Barkeep, barley water, please. You something against my good brown ale, strong enough to stick a spoon in it? It's good enough for any dog or soldier who walks through the door. Good enough that the king himself, God saves him, has drunk it, whilst you turn up that dainty nose. The man leaned past me and knocked on the plank bar. Listen, keg tapper, rather than waste your time yapping at a pretty girl who's not interested, why not occupy yourself pouring out for me and my ladies, and let her be about her business? I glanced at him and stepped to the side. He was lean and deadly looking, with blade-scarred hands and sharp bones. He was also white-skinned and dark-eyed, with hair so fair it was nearly white. He winked at me as he leaned in for the barman's attention. I figured him to be in his early 20s. I was first in my class of guessing men's ages, so I felt sure about that. A barmaid passed me a mug of water. If you want the jack, bring your own, she told me, eyeing the newcomer with wicked intentions, with your name on it so as you won't be tasting anyone else's mouth leavings. She skipped away from the barman's slap. I went back to my dogs with our drinks. Took you long enough, Goodwin said. She grabbed her jack and downed half the ale. I placed Tunstall's before him. Like everyone else, he watched the newcomer. The cove took his drinks over to a pair of women who had grabbed an empty table. One was plainly Scanran, a tall blonde mott 2 or 3 years older than me, wearing men's clothes and a sword. The smaller one was brunette, of mixed blood. My height. She wore a sleek blue dress. I could not tell her eye color in the murky light. What do you think, Cooper? Tunstall asked. Guard from some other city, off-duty army? The blonde mott could be a mercenary of some kind. It was easy to speak if I looked at her, not him. The clothes never been near military discipline. I remembered a Y-shaped scar in his eyebrow, and the scars on his hands, and muttered, or if he was, it didn't go well. Goodwin emptied her jack and shoved it at Tunstall. I'll have a second. Tell the bar scud if he gives our puppy a hard time again, I'll make him eat a keg after I empty it. As Tunstall left us, Goodwin said, Read me off the man. Don't look at the man, look at me. I opened my mouth and croaked. My throat had gotten dry. I cleared it. No sound came at all. No sound at all came out. Goodwin snorted. Drink some water and don't look at me then. If that helps. Mother, save us. You'd think I was a monster. The man, puppy, the man. He might be escaping with a crown and scepter this very moment. Tell the kennel dogs who they're sniffing for. I drank and read out the man's looks as I was caught in training. Early 20s, 5 feet, 10 inches, slim, muscled, sideways forked scar, left eyebrow, fair, very fair, eyes black, skin pale. He's never worked hard labor, but with that skin, not with that skin, long nose, full lower lip, thin upper lip, high cheekbones, thin cheeks. Very striking. Blade scars on hands, carries a purse and his belt knife in sight. Knife at the back collar, one inside both forearms, knives over each kidney, boot knives. I'm not sure if there's a buckle knife. If there is, it's a design I don't know. Earring, left ear, silver skull. Goodwin leaned back, whistling softly. Very well, then. You've earned your supper. I won't throw you in the river either. She looked at the ivory man, rubbing a scar on her cheek as she did. That's a very dangerous new cove who's come to town. And what for? Trouble, no doubt. She seemed to be talking to herself. Uncle came back with more ale for both of them. He was followed by a cookmaid with a tray of supper. My dogs hadn't stinted. There was eel tart, roast hare, split pea soup, and cheese fritters, along with a loaf of country bread and butter to spread on it. Eat up, Tunksel ordered as he cut into the hare. It gets busier as the evening gets older. He and Goodwin served out the food. What do you think of our pale cove? Goodwin was ladling soup. All the city knows that Kafir Dearborn is a joke as a rogue. The carrion crows and the hopefuls are coming to town. It's to be expected. I knew what she meant. Our thief king rules because he's let his district chiefs keep the biggest part of their profit. In return, they guard his life. Now word is out. The chiefs aren't as vigilant, or they're lazy. More and more young folk are restless under a rogue who lets no one move up in the way of him. It's time for a new ruler, they're saying. Goodwin reached across the table and tugged my hair. Puppy, tell us how you came to be talking all friendly-like with the dead baby's mother, who, while me and Tunksdale traded lives with Crookshank. Don't look at us or we'll be here all night. Just report. I drew on my plate with my dagger and told them how Mama was friends with Crookshank's daughter-in-law, how Annis was a customer when Mama sold perfumes, soaps, and herbs. When my Lord Gershon took us in, Annis stayed friends with us. He and Mama often shopped the day market on Mama's good days. How one time I went to see my friends and Tansy got the notion that we should go to the day market. There we found Mama and Annis's son, Huron. Looked at Tansy's curls and dimples and bright eyes. And young love, Tunksel said with a wistful sigh. It's so simple. Remember when it was simple, he asked Goodwin. Simple for you? You're a simple creature, Goodwin told him. She made a beckoning gesture to me. I have a feeling I'll get very familiar with this gesture. Come on, Twitch of just 2 fingers. What did Annis and Tansy say tonight at Crookshank's? I repeated all of it, as exactly as I could remember. Then I handed over Tansy's rock. Tunksel pushed aside the plates and set it between them. He reached into a pocket and fetched out a small thing like a white pearl. He blew on it and set it on the table next to the stone. Light spread from the globe. While the room's lamps flickered, the light was steady. As it touched the stone, it brought glints of fire from the surface in colors like cherry red, sapphire blue, and grass green. The shiny, step-like bit changed, now red, now green, now mixes of both colors with flecks of blue. Pretty toy, some other dogs had come over. It was Jewel's partner who spoke. Where'd you get it? Tansy Lofts, Crookshank's granddaughter-in-law, the married young Huron Lofts. She gave it to our puppy, Goodwin told him. Never seen anything like it. I was trying not to slide under the table. Did make myself as small as I could. I have to get better at being around folk. More dogs and a few off-duty soldiers came to see. Seemingly the customers not at the side of the law knew to mind their own business in this place. Of them, Goodwin asked. All either shook their heads or said no. Otterkin, one of the dogs with the magic gift, touched the stone. It sparked, throwing off lights in the colors of its glassy bits, and turned back to normal. It's no spellstone, Otterkin said. I suppose it could be used for one, but it's like none I was ever schooled with, she shrugged. You could always take it to Master Folk. Everyone groaned and rolled their eyes. I clenched my fist and watched my dogs. I'll take the stone to Master Folk if they order me to, but he'd best play nice. We should, though I trust your expertise over Folk's, Goodwin told Otterkin. I saw him turn a boil into a case of them once, all over the poor dog who went to him for help. The other dogs muttered agreement. Tunkstel's guilt faded. He picked it up, then the sparkly stone. It'll make a nice toy for your cat, he told me, handing the stone to me. Young Huron Lost isn't the sharpest arrow in the quiver. No doubt he thought he discovered rabies or some such. Anything else to report, puppy? Nothing more to report, guardsman, I mumbled, wishing the others would go away. And they did wander back to their table to finish their suppers. Goodwin ordered me to do the same. One more big thing happened after supper, but I am too weary to write of it now, and too miserable. On the morrow, mayhap, I will hurt less in my pride. I will write of it then. I will not be the puppy who was made dog in the shortest space of time. Thank you all so much for being here. I hope you enjoyed this next chapter in the Beka Cooper series, Terrier. We are on Becca's actual journey now, and it is so exciting. I can't wait to share the rest of this book with you. Thank you so much again. See you guys next time.